is supposed to be scary for you to become the next version of yourself. There's an opportunity cost to every decision. There's a trade-off. So if I say yes to option A, by definition, I need to say no to some other option. And I need to look at which of those if I don't do, which of those will I regret more? I don't look at it from a fear of failure perspective. I look at it from a fear of regret. It's very easy to get caught up in our mind about the what ifs and the scary things. But to me, laying on my deathbed and having regrets is so much more scary than just trying.
Hello, Dr. Amy. It's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Thank you for inviting me.
Beautiful. And thank you so very much for being here. You say I truly appreciate you. And you see, Dr. Amy, oftentimes I love to thank my guest for two things. And I do this so often to the point where it has become my anthem. So firstly, Doctor, I want to say thank you so very much for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you did invest that in yourself. And oftentimes, Dr. Amy, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some couple of months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, Dr. Amy, there was this very tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves are all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Dr. Amy, just recently I was on that same road, and this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. The mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance, and immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it, beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. And not just mangoes now, Dr. Amy. I'm talking about ripe mangoes. It was such a lovely experience that day, I tell you, and I was so, so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Dr. Amy that you are today, that alone has made it impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you got the request from me to be on the show, because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your philosophies, your insight, the impact your work is having, and how you are offering your solutions, Doctor. These stuffs are beautiful. And just before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from these beautiful things Dr. Amy is doing. And not only me now, because I don't want to look selfish, and even with the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Dr. Amy. So thank you so very much for doing that yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing Elisha could do about it. Thanks so much, Doctor.
Be here. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. So let's do it. Let's get started. You see, Dr. Amy, I am quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Doctor, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge alone, but the application of it. And you say, Dr. Amy, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking. Why? Because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the incredible Dr. Amy on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So this folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced, Doctor, that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So, for that reason, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or your professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Dr. Amy got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Dr. Amy, over to you.
Thank you. So I knew from an early age I wanted to be a medical doctor and pursued that. There wasn't really a question in my mind. But the only other thing besides being a good doctor I really wanted to do was to be a good mom. And that is what was the pivotal moment for me when those two desires clashed. And when my oldest was much younger, she asked me one night, I had about 3,000 patients. I was working in the clinic somewhere between 45 and 55 hours a week. And then I was going home and trying to work nights after my kids were in bed and weekends, another 20, 30, sometimes 40 hours. It was not a sustainable pattern. And I had 4 children, very young at that point. And my oldest, one night when I was doing charts, asked me, "Why do you love your job more than me?" That was a shocking question at a time I needed to hear it. That's probably the low, I would say, in my career, personally and professionally, because those two desires, to be a good doctor and to be a good mom, were totally in opposition to each other. And I needed to figure out a way to have them aligned. So I spent the next several months creating what that new future would look like, jumping in headfirst because I felt there was no other choice. And it was unacceptable to me to live in such conflict between these two things that both I felt God had called me to do and to do well and to do in a way that glorified Him. And I wasn't doing that in the position I had been in. So that's what led me to this place of decision making. And I'm grateful that now, 5 years almost later, uh, my children know who their mom is. They know that their mom loves them, that the business we've created for our family supports our family, and we're no longer sacrificing our children to the altar of career.
No longer sacrificing the children to the altar of career. Wow. And something that you said that I really love is the part where you said you wanted to, do something that glorifies God, but what you were into ain't permitting it. That tells the kind of person that you are, living to please God and glorify Him alone. And there is nothing more beautiful than that. And I love that, Amy. I love that. So I've got some questions here. Are you ready for me?
Let's do it.
All right. So, now let's look at let's start from here instead. How has faith shaped your leadership?
So, in the US, where I practice, we are often trained to not acknowledge the role of faith in healthcare because we are driven to be fact based, science focused. And by definition, most of faith is not provable, right? You can't see it. You can see the impact of it, but you don't measure it on a test. And for me, there was a long period from which I went through medical school and residency, and I was faculty at a prestigious university until even after I started my current business, where I really felt silenced. Like I wasn't allowed to say what I believed, and I wasn't allowed to offer hope to those in my care outside of what was proven on a test or in a study. And it has been over the last, I would say, 2 to 4 years where I have really begun to feel the not only the calling and the need to be truthful and honest about what I believe, but to offer hope through the conversations that I'm having, regardless of where people are at. And I don't know a single person who will say that the world is in a perfect state right now, right? There's a lot of darkness, there's a lot of pain, betrayal, isolation, loneliness, and it affects not just our physical health, but our mental or spiritual, emotional health. And so to lead into that truth that these, first of all, they exist, that just because I can't measure it doesn't mean that the spiritual doesn't exist. And that number two, it impacts my health outcomes and the outcomes of my patients. To be able to just acknowledge that is a huge step in my leadership story. And to feel brave enough to do it when most of my colleagues will criticize me for this. There is increasing awareness of it within medical circles. We saw miracles after miracles in COVID that none of us could explain. And so recognizing that there is another dimension here is incredibly important. It also plays out in how I treat my staff and, as we've alluded to, my family. So my business exists to serve my family. My family does not exist to serve my business. But it also means that as an employer, that I want to make sure my staff are being paid competitive wages, that they're getting the support they need to, if they have a family hiccup that they need extra support for, that they can even have some health benefits because of their work with our team. And, I try to follow the scriptures, and it's very clear that employers are called to a high standard. If we're going to claim to be a Christian and be an employer, we need to treat those who work with us very well, not just our clients, but those who serve alongside us. And so I would say that's how my faith has played out in my leadership in my business.
And that's so beautiful. And the fact that the scripture is your guide. I love that. So what about this one? How can moms lead without losing themselves?
It is the ongoing question I think every mom is trying to figure out. And I would offer that as soon as you think you figured it out, something changes and you have to refigure it out. But I do think it's very important to understand what your values are. And it took me a little bit to understand this concept. But once I figured out my values, it made things a lot more simple for me. So for me, my values are faith, family, and fitness in that order. So every decision I make, I run through in my mind, is this aligned with my values, or is it just kind of a cool thing I could do? And if it's not in line with one of those three things, then I know it's not the right thing for me, at least at this time. The second part I look at is what's the impact it's going to have. Is it aligned with my calling? And if any of the decisions I'm making are sabotaging my calling to be a good mom or to be a good doctor, then they're not the right thing. And so to answer your question more completely, I think it comes down to prioritization. I don't think that most moms have a problem with time management. There's, of course, always someone who could benefit, right? But in general, I don't think people have problems with time management. I think they have problems with priority management. So understanding
Priority
priorities,
management.
defining that, and then moving forward from that understanding, I think does a lot to elevate mom's ability to care for herself, to care for her family, her community, the people in her work if she chooses to work outside the home. There's a lot of layers, but that's kind of the general gist.
Beautiful, and I got that. And that was a great answer, I tell you. And the fact that you went straight to your calling, doing and living for what God has created you to be, who you were born to be. That's so beautiful and that's very inspiring. And I'm definitely going to forward this episode to some women that I know. They are still acting really stubborn. They don't want to step into their calling. And I'm going to use you as a beautiful example. So let's just branch there for now. So what would you tell women who are afraid to pursue their calling?
Was there. I get it. It's scary. And we're called to do it anyway. We are called to do hard things. We are created and given wisdom, if we choose to accept it, to move forward. And it is firmly my belief that you will not have as much satisfaction or fulfillment in life as you would if you choose not to. Don't believe that we're created to not be in community with each other and to not have impact. I believe we all are worthy just by being made in the image of God and living examples of his light to each other. So when I hear about someone, whether they share my belief or not, in terms of spirituality, I do think each of us has a calling and we get to choose if we step into that. And it's always going to be scary. It's supposed to be scary for you to become the next version of yourself.
It's scary, but you just have to do it anyway. I got that. I got that. Okay, so what about this? How do you choose your yeses and nos?
So it goes back to what I was describing to you. I didn't name it, but I've created what's called a VIP filter. VIP makes everyone feel special, right? You're a very important person. And I believe each person is, but each person's values are different. their calling or the impact they want to have is different, and therefore their prioritization will have to be different. So for me, I really look at the idea that there's an opportunity cost to every decision. There's a trade-off. So if I say yes to option A, by definition, I need to say no to some other option. And I need to look at which of those would, if I don't do, which of those will I regret more? So I don't look at it from a fear of failure perspective. I look at it from a fear of regret. I don't want to be on my deathbed and say, I wish I'd been more brave. I wish I'd loved more deeply. I wish I had tried and failed and learned and grown. I think that it's very easy to get caught up in our mind about the what ifs and the scary things. But to me, laying on my deathbed and having regrets is so much more scary than just trying.
I got that, and that was well answered as well. So we have two more to go, okay? So what does leading from wholeness mean to you?
So, wholeness, by definition, is not one part, right? You have to have all the components. And true health, I believe, encompasses mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. It also branches out to secondary components of health. So that could look like financial health. It can look like relational health, community engagement, and socialization health. So there's a lot of layers to it, but wholeness comes from a perspective of saying, number one, I don't know what my own blind spots are, so I need someone else to help me. And number two, being really willing to be vulnerable. And our brains completely freak out when we're vulnerable. They don't want to be vulnerable because we don't want to be hurt, right? So that's a normal reaction, and embracing that it's supposed to feel uncomfortable and scary. And yeah, you might get hurt. And that's the way it's meant to be, is a strategy I tend to move forward with. Um, I think the last thing I would say is that if you don't understand your values and your priorities, you can't lead from a place of wholeness because you don't know who you are. Your identity isn't clear. For me, I'm very clear. My identity is as a Christian woman, as a child of God. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, sister, daughter, right? I'm an employer. I know exactly who I am. And because of that, no matter what circumstances may occur, that doesn't change my identity. It doesn't define who I am. What I do is right now I'm a physician, right? I care for people physically, but that doesn't mean that that's me in totality. And so understanding that wholeness is much more than what we would often say is very important. And I wish more people knew that. I wish I had known this earlier. This should be something we teach children in school, right? Not something that we're struggling to learn as adults.
Exactly. Very, very true. So finally, Dr. Amy, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about the wonderful stuff you're doing, upon your services or programs, or even ask you questions, how can that be possible?
So there's a few ways. Number one, you can go to our website, vitalitymwc.org. You can follow us on social media, which is at Dr. Amy Tiffany. We just started a new YouTube channel, which is called The Authentic Physician. And I actually interview other female physicians and have similar conversations about what does it look like to be trustworthy and authentic in healthcare when it's a messy place of regulations and bureaucracy and many times poor experiences, both on the physician and the patient side. So they could follow us there and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If anyone would like a copy of our book, they can reach out and get a copy. It's called The Postpartum Pivot. It's on Amazon, but it's really designed for women who have children and are trying to figure out how do they do their health habits now that they also have children. And certainly they're working inside their home, but maybe they're working a second job outside their home, helping them figure out the how of habits, because everyone knows to eat healthy, to get enough sleep, to be active, right? but very few people know how to do it in the constraints of their life. And that's what the book was designed to help with. So all of that is available to your listeners.
Amazing. And thank you so very much. So that's going to be the end of the show, Dr. Amy. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this wonderful stuff with
Thank you.
us. It means a whole lot. Yeah.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.